This is Your Own Best Company, a podcast and community for creative people who value and enjoy working alone. Hello, everyone. I'm Franklin Taggart, and this is Your Own Best Company, a podcast for people who love working alone. And I am more than delighted to introduce you to Cat Stancik this morning, this afternoon, this evening, wherever you are. I've only recently become acquainted with Cat, and I've rapidly moved up the ranks in her fan club to at least a high level, I'm sure. But Cat is also known in the entrepreneurial world as the lead boss. And there's a good reason for that we're going to all be learning about very quickly. And she is a Renaissance woman in so many ways. She's a podcast host of a podcast called Revenue Accelerator. She offers high-level programs to entrepreneurs who are really, trying to get the most out of their business and to make the biggest out of what they've got. And so I couldn't be happier to introduce you to Cat Stancik. Good morning, Cat.
Hi, thanks for having me.
It is my good pleasure. And we've got a lot of ground to cover.
Let's do this.
So the first thing I'd like to talk about is you work a lot with businesses who are really trying to generate a lot of business, but you are kind of working in opposition to what you've come to call LinkedIn leg humpers.
Yes.
Can you give us a little bit of background behind that?
Yeah. So, in growing my business, I definitely fell for here's the one strategy that you need. You'll never need anything else, and all your problems will be solved. And here's your $1 million business on paper. It's interesting. I see this happen a lot is people who kind of get other people hyped up based off of the possibilities. Now, I'm all for that in terms of really helping people connect to it, but I'm also a realist. And so having gone through these exercises multiple times and having planned multiple $1 million businesses and not realizing it, it really led me down the path of, trying to figure out what the problem was, knowing that it couldn't be me. So many times we think I'm the problem, something's wrong with me, it's working for everybody else. And really, it's not that there's something wrong with you, it's that you don't have a skill set yet that no one is really actively talking about, and no one's actually supporting you in developing it. Now, here's the thing is that there's multi-million-dollar businesses who still haven't mastered this skill set. So you can either look at that as there's plenty of opportunity or, oh, hell, I don't know if we can cuss, but big F-bomb, right?
It's all worked for me, yeah.
So looking at, kind of going through that motion of being like, look, I know that I have an ability, I can deliver value just by the sheer intention of wanting to deliver value. So how do I get in front of more people? And then I realized really what was keeping me stuck was I didn't know how to have the conversation. I didn't know how to do it without like fumbling and being awkward and weird about it, which I still am, but I embrace it now, right? But looking at, really what I talk about is how do we go from talking about the weather to whether we should work together? That weather to weather conversation is where most people get stuck. Sure. Can we connect with people? Sure. Can you learn how to close people? Fine. But if you don't know how to generate the leads, then you can be the best salesperson, but you're still not going to be on any calls. And I talk about how you can have the worst sales call because I've had them, right? Yeah. Being the person who was selling and the call still closed because it was the right lead. So many people put so much emphasis on the sales aspect of things and don't really look at how are you creating community? How are you actively attracting people? And that's kind of where because I learned it, then other people started seeing me explode in terms of growth and kind of go against the grain in terms of what's normal for business growth. And, kind of looked at me and going, well, hold on, what are you doing? And then I was able to take my process and create a mechanism for them to function within it. Meaning, it wasn't a one size fits all, but it was a framework that had pieces that you could choose from. So I kind of think of it like a buffet of like, so my process is connect, converse, and close. There are options within how you can connect with people. Pick the one that aligns to your strength. Pick the one that not only aligns to your strength, but that your people respond to and interact with, right? That's the key to opening the door to success. It's like a double, door. Both of those things need to work in conjunction. Same thing was the conversation. If you're someone who hates doing Facebook Lives, and it's not just I hate it, but I do want to do it, but it's I really despise it because it is the bane of my existence kind of thing. There are mechanisms that you can still show up and be visible without necessarily having to do that single strategy. Yeah. Same thing with closing. And so it's really looking at leaning into your strengths instead of always trying to, fill in the gaps of where your weaknesses might be living.
How did you discover that for yourself? I mean, what were the breakthrough insights for your discovery of that?
Of being able to figure out how to have the conversation?
Yeah.
Yeah. I was $30,000 on my credit card, right? I was doing the credit card shuffle.
Yeah.
0% APR here, 0% APR there, 3% balance transfer. I got this every 12 to 18 months, right? So at least I had the benefit of having decent credit. And basically I had that, and I was still working, part-time at the consulting firm that I was working at. I mean, very appreciative. It was my biggest client, wink, wink, right? Yeah. Like kind of situation, my investor, if you will. And I had already paid I had $20,000 in this mastermind that I had invested in that was going to, again, solve all my problems. And it hadn't. And I was just like, literally was like, I can't do this. And I saw someone else start selling something, and I started looking at all his stuff, and I started looking at the case studies. And I had a conversation, and I remember it was like a $6,000 program at the time. And I was like, I can't buy something else, Kat. You can't do this. You've invested all this money, like a literally conversation in my head. My husband's always been amazing. He's always been like, if you need it, you get it. I have that advantage. I know a lot of people don't. And I invested again. And the reason I invested again was because I actually felt like someone was going to be there for me this time.
Yeah.
Right. So a lot of times it's not just, is the sales call going through, but is the person going to be there after the credit card clears? And in this instance, that did happen. And I remember I didn't succeed right off the bat, right? Like it took me a while. The first time I went through the program, it was a 90-day kind of, intensive. And I think I made like $14,000, and the minimum was like to win was like 30,000. So didn't even make half. And I said, I'm not giving up. I'm gonna do it again. So I did it again, and I did 15,000. And I was like, I'm not gonna do it again. And I think I waited 6 months, and I was like, all right, I'm ready to go. And I had a kid between then and all that. So,
okay. Well, there's
and
that.
I remember that there was a shift, because then that next quarter, right, that next 90 days, I made, I think it was like $58,000. So that's a big jump between $15,000 and $58,000.
Yeah.
And I remember the shift. And I think a lot of people, this might hit home for, hit you in between the eyes kind of situation, was throughout these programs where I've been learning from people and stuff like that, I always ended up being, here's the pun, a copycat. And not meaning like I literally took their stuff, but I was always being a mini version of who that person already was. And so really, I remember thinking like, why would someone buy from me when they could go to the original source? And it really prevented me from being able to sell and go out there. Like there was this whole battle and energy going on inside me. And I got to a point where I was like looking, and I worked with him on this, and I looked at it and said, this process doesn't work for me. I don't want to be a sales expert. That's not, I don't feel comfortable in that. I don't feel that I can own that crown, that title in any kind of way, shape, or form. And he asked a question and said, well, what if you let it go? And I was like, oh, I'm sorry, what? What if I let go of the thing that's holding me back? What do I really, really enjoy doing? And I started looking at what was the beginning part of that formula of, from cold contact to client, was in this area of having the conversation and building and nurturing the relationship. And that's where the lead boss was born.
Oh, cool.
When I embraced that aspect of who I was in business, I could let go of the imposturing aspects of the business, right? Where I was feeling like I was postulating and not really, it was like vaporware kind of thing, and really say, I am this formed entity. This is what I stand for. This is who I am. And this is how I can help you. And this is where I fit in your path to success.
Yeah.
I am not the entire thing, but this is my stepping stone for your path. And really being able to own that geographic space is really what made the turn in my business.
Wow. That's a great story. And I think
I'm not sure I've actually really shared that before. So that's all.
well, I'll make sure that you get a clip of that one just by itself. It's really good. The thing that stands out to me is that, you know, you stopped trying to fit into the other person's mold.
Yeah.
And you kind of found your own space and your own place where your strengths really shine.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is something that everybody needs to hear.
Yeah.
My experience was similar in that, you know, I'm not the outgoing, get up on stage and sell 100,000 copies of something kind of a guy. But I am the kind of guy that if we have a conversation, it's going to go somewhere, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's leverage that. And I love the fact that you were able to leverage that strength of being able to help people with particularly lead generation, which is one of the biggest challenges in any business.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about what the appeal for you was to lead generation.
I think it's one of those things of, I think a lot of us, something funny is coming and it processed in my head faster than what I could say it. So that's what that was about. So I think really entrepreneurs are people who want to process through therapy and traumas faster than the average human being. Right.
Yes,
and so
we all do. Yes.
I'm really coming up with this like evidential based theory, essentially, that the more we process through something, the more we can put that as part of our communication, our business, the more we can allow the masses to be inspired and take action, and in turn go through their own traumas and stuff like that. And so part of all of this was I do it because I was burned.
Yeah.
Right. Like people didn't tell me how to do it. People didn't open up the kimono kind of thing. And it's just, you know, honestly, I want to believe in my clients the way that someone should have believed in me.
Yeah.
And then help them be able to tap into their own battery of belief so that they can then support other people in doing that. And that's the ripple effect.
Yeah.
That I want to play a part of. And a lot of my why has to do with really, you know, what I call is the only true mastery of success is time.
Yeah.
So yes, what is time? If you can own your time and spend it the way that you want, the reflection that comes back is that you have a certain amount of income, you have a certain lifestyle that you're living, whatever it is. Doesn't matter if it's the private jet, I can fly first class, or I can just sit on my back porch and do whatever I want, whatever that looks like for the individual. But when you're able to master your time, you can be there for the people you love in the way that someone probably should have been there for you.
Yeah, you mentioned the $20,000 coaching program that didn't deliver.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know that there are a lot of heartbreaking tales like that out there, and I have a few of my own. Mm-hmm. So it makes you a little gun shy when it comes to that.
You know, there's a lot of that when you get on a sales call that you're having to overcome. I mean, you hear it all the time on, you know, well, I'm not sure. Like the money objection is this hesitation of, you know, I have invested and I've been burned and I really don't want that to happen to me again, kind of thing. And a lot of times what happens is someone gets over that and then it happens again and then again and again and again. And there is a point in time where you do have to look at yourself and say, how much of this is me and how much of this is the other person? What is it that I'm not honoring in myself that is continuing me to go down this path of allowing myself to be used and not standing up for the things that I know I should be standing up for?
I'm going to isolate that one and just make it like on repeat.
You know, and actually it's part of like what I love about what I do is because, you know, we've all invested in these things. And when you know how to do this, that's when those other programs actually start working for you.
Very good.
So like learning how to build a funnel, not bad. Learning how to do Facebook ads, not bad. But if you can't have the conversation, those strategies and techniques, those tactics aren't going to be able to sustain your business, whatever, so that's that predictability and consistency has to happen by you, especially when you're a just you business where you're the sales, marketing, and everything department, right? You have to build that skill set because at the end of the day, you're absolutely in control of how much money you make in your business.
Yeah.
It is not a black box where some effort goes in, something magical happens behind the scene, Wizard of Oz kind of style, or whatever, and then a client pops out. There are levers in your business that you can pull, and you can pull them when you're ready to be able to increase the client flow, no matter what you're charging. I don't care if you're charging $50,000 or $200.
Yeah.
The process is still the same. It's just your marketing message and the actions you're taking to support it are what change.
Very good. We can get into a lot of detail here, and I want to make sure that we touch on the things that we talked about. Can we get back to the 3 C's: the connect, converse, and close?
Yes.
I forgot to mention in your introduction that you and Tobin Slavin have written a book called "Experts Don't Chase." Do you have a copy to show everyone? Lovely, lovely book. And one of the things that's talked about in there are the gears. But when I first heard you present on connect, converse, and close, it really resonated with me because it's similar to the system that I've created for myself to use. Can you talk a little bit about each part of that, just a little bit, to help us understand what are the components of it?
Absolutely. So my process flows through these 3 areas. Everything I do, everything I talk about, every piece of content aligns to one of these 3 key areas, pillars, whatever you want to call them. So specifically in the connection. So a lot of people think connection, sure, I can go hit that blue button and connect with people all day long on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, whatever platform you're using. P.S. This is a process that works on any platform. So just to the audience, it's not, if I talk about LinkedIn specifically, it's because that's where a lot of my clients live. But that may not necessarily be where your people are. So I use Facebook and LinkedIn in conjunction. So just a little start point there. But when we're connecting with people, it's not just that connection request. If you're looking at like a bullseye, like a target, right? Connecting with people is actually one of the outer rim aspects of the bullseye. Mm-hmm. So if that's all you're doing, you're not really hitting the bullseye. You're not really making forward progress in your business. And that's probably why you feel like you're not making forward progress in your business, because you're doing the thing that's like easier to hit, essentially.
Yeah.
If we're starting to go in closer to the bullseye, what you want to really look at are who are those hot leads. Let's not add more cold water into your pipeline when you already have something that's ready to drink for your tea, your coffee, whatever it is. So, I talk about you're already connected to your next 100K, meaning you do not need to generate another lead. You are already connected to the people who will gladly and happily pay you 100K. Maybe 1 person, maybe 10 people, whatever that looks like, but you're already connected. And so if we look at that, how can we leverage those fast action connections to start creating that return on investment? There are certain key strategies that you can leverage to create that revenue infusion in your business, and then use that to continue to propel and create more success in your business.
Yeah.
So one of the things where I see people, and there's 2 ways of making 100K, right? There's like your next 100K, you make it or you save it. What I love doing is both, because that's multiple 6 figures.
There you go.
And where I see people leaving money on the table is by not optimizing their social media presence. Meaning you're one thing on LinkedIn, you're something else on Facebook, and God knows what you are on Instagram, right? So not having that consistency across the platforms, what you're doing is you're creating a reason for someone to say no to your connection request.
Yeah.
So one of the things you want to make sure you're doing too, as part of that, is looking at the quality of the person. This is the first lever that you pull in your business, the quality of the person that you're connecting with. And I don't mean, are they a human being worth, anything? It's not. How do they fit your client avatar? Yes, everybody, collective eye roll. We're going back to that basic function again, because your avatar is evolving just as you evolve. If you've ever gotten to a place in your business where you said, I want to work with a more high-end, high-level, more established person in my business, who's in their business essentially, and all of a sudden you feel like you threw a dynamite stick into your business and everything started exploding because you were self-sabotaging, not necessarily. You only self-sabotage if you go back. that's where you waste time. If you
Oh,
continue to move forward and update that social media presence, update when we're going to talk about this in the conversation piece, your content, things like that,
yeah.
then you can attract that person. Right. So that's just a little something that hit me yesterday in terms of value. So in the connect, right, we're looking at who are we already connected to and are we activating those conversations and driving people to the sales call? One of the reasons people hit the outer rim of the target is because they don't want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
So they just flood their connections, right? And they're cold connections. They're not quality connections. And we talk about in the book is how to increase your connection request rates, right? Not to just 34 to 50%, but almost 100% is by engaging and adding value to other people before you ask of them.
Yeah.
When you ask to connect, that is a request. You are taking from that person. So when you're doing that, one, give them context to accept it. And two, don't give them a reason on your profile not to. If you get some weird pitchy thing, right? Like use judgment to your advantage.
Yeah.
So put a headline and a picture that's going to compel people to want to say yes. So which is the first yes of multiple yeses that you're getting before you get to the big yes. All right, moving on to the conversation.
Yeah.
So for me, the biggest part of this are two aspects. One, conversations like this, podcasting, networking, coffee chats, mixers, all that good stuff where you see someone's face.
Yeah.
We all get that. The other piece is content. Content is how you have thousands of conversations without ever having to actually engage with anybody. And the problem is that most people aren't thinking strategically about their content. They're just putting stuff out there. They're placeholders. And if I see be the change you want to be in the world one more time, Gandhi, great, end results, like all kinds of issues with his life.
Yeah.
Fine, perfect, awesome. And that doesn't compel or inspire people. It doesn't open the door to possibility, which is where people connect and converge.
Yeah.
So part of your content has to do multiple things. And this is where I talk about the 4 Ps. So the 4 Ps is the structure that you use in order to create a balanced experience for people. It's not pitch, 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 and it's not fluff, 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 fluff.
Yeah.
Right? Because I've seen very engaged Facebook groups with thousands, tens of thousands of people in it. And there's not a buyer in sight.
No.
Because it's just this fluffy nothingness of people willing to waste their times, right? So if we look at this, the first P is popcorn. Now, yes, I said fluff, and this is fluffy. However, it's gourmet fluff. And so we take the popcorn and we drizzle a little caramel or chocolate or put some savory spices on it, whatever it is that floats your boat. And we look at what are the things that give us insight into someone's values so that we can create engagement. This is something along the lines of, instead of saying, hey, who likes pineapple on their pizza? It doesn't really tell me anything other than you may or may not be gluten intolerant, right? So what we want to do is say, hey, what's your favorite action movie?
Yeah.
So where's the strategy behind that? The strategy behind that is that then I can write a piece of content related to Batman.
Yeah.
How Batman saves the day and can save your business. If you're already attuned to something that you enjoy engaging with it, why would I not use that as part of my content to call you into my space? Because you're already tuned into that radio station, essentially. So let's play the song that you're going to dance to. That's a good metaphor. Remember that one, Kat. So looking at how do we create this strategy as part of our content? Now that's the first one, which is the popcorn. The next one is positioning. Mm-hmm. Now this is, I talked a little bit about LinkedIn positioning and all that stuff, but what are you sharing that shares the value, that gives value, not just identifies the value in other people, but these are a little bit of the how-to trainings, these nuggets, these aha moments, and it doesn't have to always be long form posts, but it has to be something that gets people thinking. You want to think, am I going to go, when I put this out there? Is my person. And again, all this has to be aligned to your ideal client. If your ideal client doesn't like Batman, please don't write something about Batman, right?
Yeah.
We want to make sure that's always the underlying connection between all of these pieces. So we've got popcorn, we've got positioning, and now we've got prospecting, right? So this, like a majority of your content is going to be in those 2 first buckets. And yes, a lot of your stuff is going to be a little bit more fluffy because that creates the engagement and it lowers the barrier to entry and engagement. Yeah. Because people are going to be like, oh, I'm getting to know her. She's getting to know me. This is engaging. It's going to leverage the algorithm. When it comes to prospecting, it's what are those posts that are helping people to raise their hands to say, I have this problem. And it's a value add. It is a bigger value add. It could be a lead magnet. It could be an opportunity to engage. It could be a workshop or whatever it is. But it's that experience that really allows people to get to know you better so that they continue to make that buying decision. Now, the last one is pitch. Yes, we do pitch. However, we do it about 5% of the time, if that, right? This means like one post a month at most, where you say, hey, and it has to be in integrity. Don't say I have 2 spots left in my mastermind when there's 10.
Yeah.
Right. Like this has to be real, because if you see the same post every month, then it's, it's kind of like, okay, well, then obviously this is just going in rotation and you always have 2 spots open. So there's no urgency. That's that manipulation strategy that a lot of grow marketers use that I am very much against.
Yeah.
So yes, do we create fear of missing out? Sure. Do we create scarcity? Do we create time urgency? Absolutely. But in integrity.
Yes.
We leverage the truth and we honor it. So if I say that cart closing on Friday at 12, if it's 12:01, give me a break, but it's closing at 12 midnight that time, right? We're not doing this. Oh, I got so many emails. Yeah, right. And so I'm going to extend the cart for 24 hours. That's manipulation.
Yeah.
Right. Like let's see what kind of person are we attracting when we do these kind of strategies also. So those are the 4 P's in terms of popcorn, positioning, prospecting, and pitch.
Yes.
And we use a different variety of each. So it's roughly 60% of your stuff is going to be in popcorn, 40%. No, that gets 100. So I think it's 40% popcorn, 20% positioning, 10% prospecting, and then 5% pitch. And I think that gives us a total of 100, or you guys do the math. You get it.
Yeah, you're somewhere in the neighborhood.
Maybe 10% somewhere here or there. So we'll add it into the prospecting or positioning.
The other 10% could be, kitty pictures, whatever.
Right. But part of that too is like one of the most important aspects, especially when it comes to content and when it comes to marketing, is leveraging stories.
Yeah.
People people do what I do.
Yeah.
People help other people generate leads. There are lots of LinkedIn experts, lots of whatever platform experts. What makes me different from them is me, right? That's why we share our values. That's why this is a lot.
Yeah.
And I embrace that. And it is too much for a lot of people. And it's just the right amount for a lot of people too.
Yeah.
Right. And so really embracing, who are you? How do you want to show up in the world as yourself? And yes, I'm going to use the word authentic. But really showing up. And when I say sales calls are awkward, I will sometimes say, oh, wow, this is a really awkward call. Okay, how about we restart it here? And calling it out, because that's who I am. But if that's not who you are, don't do that. It will come across as weird.
Yeah.
But really stepping into that and being okay with being too much, because at the end of the day, your self-worth is not based on how much you weigh or how much money you make.
Yeah.
So many people assign that value to themselves because it was assigned to them. Your value and your ability to charge a premium price point is based on your ability to support and deliver results for your clients.
Yeah. And you consistently do that. Let's talk a little bit about on your social media. I mean, I follow you on Facebook and LinkedIn, and I'm not sure about Instagram, but I'm not on there very much. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I really enjoy about following you is that you share interesting, personal, uplifting, and enticing types of content.
So there's a couple one that popped in my head, and I was like, I know which ones you're talking about.
Well, I think the Tough Mudder series that you're going through right now with preparing for this feat of physical,
God, I hate it.
Incredible.
I started off this series, and it's only a series because of just it's every other day or every 3 days I'm kind of post a thing of just this really pissed off, sweaty version of me. And I said from the get-go, this is not going to be a series of I love this is amazing, blah blah blah. This is the realness. I don't often go negative when it comes to my posts. And I'm not going and being but I'm looking at where's the positive and the negative. Right? Where's the opportunity here? Because so often when we are in business, things happen to us.
Yeah.
Let me change that. Things happen for us.
Yeah.
So if you're feeling like things are happening to you, start looking at how they're happening for you. Even when you choose, these things like a Tough Mudder, and you voluntarily put yourself through stress, right? Where the lining, the silver lining is, because honestly, like, that's what people want. They want the realness. They want the failures. I mean, everybody loves watching a train wreck, but if everything you put out is a train wreck, then you're just a train wreck.
I saw your shoe shopping picture, and I looked at your shoes that were in the picture, and I said, oh, those poor shoes.
Right. I really debated on that one. Like, they're like, that's almost an indicator for me of like, if I'm like, oh, I don't know if I should post this, then I'm like, okay, that means I need to post it. I really debated on them, and I was like, these fucking shoes are terrible, and they're not meant for running. And I've been running in them for 2 weeks, and I've got hip flexor issues, and now I've got like orthotic inserts. And I was like, literally, the salesperson, the poor guy, I was like, are these like old people shoes? I just like, literally, I was like, please, this is like a brand that a lot of people like, okay, just don't bring out Velcro. Like, just, if we have like, a tying capability, then we're good. But, and I looked at some of them, and I was like, that's really rounded everywhere, and that feels very orthotic. So can we get some angles on the shoe, please?
When they bring out the New Balance, you kind of know that you've progressed into another age range. That's my
what
thought.
I ended up buying. I ended up buying New Balance shoes.
Well, I remember, thinking, okay, I really am an adult now. I'm wearing New Balance shoes. Yeah.
But some people have high arches. I have like hyper high arches. I'm like literally all the way at the top in terms of like, I'm almost off the measuring scale, which, I always knew I was special. I'm an overachiever, even in my feet. But there's a lot of lessons that I'm learning. I mean, and I call these Cat's fables.
Yeah.
So it's, what's the story and where's the moral of the story for your business?
Yeah.
Right. Like, there's so much in life, and it's not that it's necessarily a business lesson. It really is a life lesson, because life and business aren't two separate things. They're both things that we're emotionally and intellectually and spiritually evolving in, especially entrepreneurs, especially when you have a solo business, right? Where you really have to work through so much mindset. And really sharing these things is kind of like, I mean, it's therapy for me. It's a reminder. It helps me reconnect to that essence energy that I have to really go and, oh my God, I'm going to do it. Be the change you want to see in the world. See how I brought that around?
Yeah, everything works here.
Right? Or we make it, right? Like, you're a square peg in a round hole. Give me some sandpaper. This is going to happen.
Well, one of the things that comes to my mind is, like, we've talked about the things that you can do that are really, really helpful. And one of the things that I was thinking as you were talking through your 4 Ps is, this is Cat saying algorithm schmalgorithm. You're not worrying about any kind of an algorithm. You're actually just getting on there and making real connections with people and moving it somewhere.
This Tough Mudder thing really showed me. I mean, I started getting some engagement, and I had my suspicions, and I forgot I didn't go through the third C for close. So don't let me forget about that, because I want to make sure because I will tangent like nothing else.
We'll get back to it.
Like, doing this like live documentation. And so really, one, like, for me to create content, it just is a matter of me waking up that day, right? And just noticing and seeing, like, being open to where the inspiration will hit, which is one of the most important things when it comes to content, is document, don't create.
Yeah.
Just document the experiences. And over time, what happens when you see someone who's like, oh my God, their emails are so on point. Well, it's probably because they're pulling emails over the past 10 years together in a sequence, because they've seen which ones hit and which ones are a miss. And they're not really always constantly creating, but they're re-leveraging efficiently and effectively and intellectually.
Yeah.
So, like, me, I'm going to be able, I might not run this same series again, but I'm going to pull this or that email and be like, all right, this is good. And I can change the call to action, but the setup, right? The connection, the emotion is there for people to be able to feel like I'm a human and that I get it. I mean, and what happens is that the people that I knew were potentially flies on the wall, they've been watching me, right? Like, are starting to engage because I've created an opportunity for them. So basically, I finally asked a question they could say yes to.
Yeah.
So if you're not getting a yes from your people, it's because you haven't asked the right question.
Yeah.
And so when you give them that opportunity to engage, when it doesn't feel like a threat, because that's why we diversify our posts, because if it's always, what's the angle? What's the angle? What's the angle? What's the angle? You're coming at me from some way, because we're so sensitive to people pitching us, because people always are working an angle. And instead you're just saying, hey, I'm going to leave this here. And if you want some, have some, but I'm not going to come back and put a chain around your neck and, make you come be my client or something along those lines. It's like, I'm just giving this value because karmically, I know it's going to come back to me. And real value, real understanding, and things like that. And so that's a lot of what has to do with your content, is really looking at what's that line, and how close can you get to that private line, right? So there's personal and private. When you get closer and closer to this space where you're really hovering right there in that, whatever it is, that's where people feel like they really see you. Yeah. And really can be like, oh, okay. And that's how they see what values you have, especially when you're consistent, because consistency is the number one way to overcome risk. Yeah. Yeah, that's a great, we need to put that one on repeat too. Yeah. I'm going to have a whole bunch of things on repeat from this one, I can tell. I love my one-liners. Yes, indeed. You got some good ones. But the thing that strikes me is that in being able to actually show those things about yourself and inching toward that personal realm, the connection is actually, it's so much more authentic and deep, and from both sides. And it makes, what's really funny is like, it doesn't have to be something that takes months to develop. And what you facilitate through your availability is like almost an immediate rapport that has a future and a direction. And I love that. One of the things that I wanted to point out before we get to your closing piece, one of the things that I love is that you're really good at putting out an offer that's easy to say yes to. Like a couple of weeks ago, you offered the podcast mixer. And then before that, I remember you and Jason did your piece on Book of Experts, where you did the mixer there. But you're putting things together that have a real appeal for people, and they're easy to say yes to, and they're extraordinarily valuable. And so that combination to me, you really represent the epitome of that. And I can put you out there as somebody that everybody should follow in the way that you present it, because you're making the offer something that is easy to say yes to. That is a really important thing when it comes to engaging with people online. Right. So, again, Pitchy Pete, leg humpers, all of those people, they're the reason why the barrier is actually so high, because that's that angle that people are trying to work of. How quickly can I get to the sales call, right? Yeah. And for me, I like to think of it absolutely in the opposite way. And I think I need to do and talk about this specifically a little bit more, which is I actually don't try to invite a lot of people to sales calls. Now, there's some people that I feel like I claim them energetically, and I'm like, I need to work with you. Like, I know I can support you. I want it. Like, let's figure out how to make this happen, kind of thing. Like that. I invite people to sales call? Yes. Most of the time, it's an open invitation that someone gets to RSVP to whenever they want. Yeah. And so what I mean is, and I'll share these statistic, which is 3% of people, and this is your current connections. This is how I know that you're already connected to 100K, right? Yeah. At least 3% of people that you're currently connected to are ready to say yes to working with someone. And that someone could very well be you, right? Yeah. They're ready. They are actively buying. They're searching. They have their credit card out. They're ready to buy. And they're just identifying who the right person is. Now, 7% of people need a little bit more information to see whether or not they want to buy from you. Just a little bit more information. They need an experience. They need a lead magnet. They need a piece of content. It doesn't have to be this huge thing. So that's 10% of people you're already connected to. So go ahead and add those numbers up and see how many people that is. This is why you don't necessarily have to generate new leads all the time. Now, 60% of people need a little bit of loving. This is why we have Facebook groups. This is why we created a mechanism like a wading pool for people to warm up. Some people don't want to cannonball into the deep end. They need to wade their way in, and they just need to beat 10 more minutes in the ankle section because they're not ready to go into their knees, right? Like it's just, they're not there yet. And if you splash them, they're running the fuck out of the water. Right? Like, yeah, that's Pitchy Pete and all those leg humpers. They're the ones like that are splashing you and be like, come in the water. And you're like a 3-year-old that's annoying the hell out of me.
Yeah, right.
And then this is where what happens with most people, if they're not, especially if they're not making 6 figures in their business yet. The bottom 30 are the people who are freebie seekers and tire kickers.
Yeah.
They will never buy. And most people market to the bottom 30. Which is why they're not successful in business. If you are frustrated with your unsubscribes, if you're not feeling like you have enough people in your Facebook group, if you're looking at those vanity metrics, you're marketing to the bottom 30.
Yeah.
And you're leaving 70% of the opportunity to make revenue and more revenue in your business on the table. Right? So where are you putting your attention? And so my job is not to force people up the ladder. My job is to welcome them when they've moved themselves up the ladder.
Yeah.
This is how we go from this push marketing, right, to this attraction marketing, because what you're doing is you're putting content, you're putting opportunities out there to say yes, that help people make that decision for themselves. That's how you have a sales call where all you're doing is making sure that it's an energetic right fit. That person shows up ready to buy. Yeah. And it's really only up to you to screw it up, essentially. Those are the sales calls we all want.
That leads us beautifully into your close stage.
Right? Which is the close, which is part of this, which is how are you leading people through the process? Not pushing and pulling them, right? But leading them through the close conversation. Yeah. And yes, there are templates. Yes, if I deviate from my template, the sales call doesn't always go great. But one of the reasons that I have an 80 to 90% close rate is not necessarily because I get a yes the first time.
Yeah.
It's because my follow-up is savage.
Yeah.
Right? Like it is fierce. You will hear from me. I will engage with you. I will invite you to things, and I am completely unattached because I have enough of a pipeline that if someone says no, I can say next.
Yeah.
That's empowerment. That's when you're in control of your business, and that's how you create consistent and predictable revenues. Now, the other little nugget that I'm going to share is that when we have the right person on the call, this works with the right person on the call. It's not with everybody. When you have the right lead on the call, what happens is, and this is with anybody on the call, but what we tend to do is we sell the way we buy.
Yeah.
Of course, it's natural and comfortable. But what if with the right lead, you sold the way they want to buy? How many more people would you close without putting any more effort into your business, just increasing your close ratio? And all that has to do, and there's 5 buyer types, and every single buyer gets the information they need if you share what they need to consume before the sales call.
Yes.
Right? So, and I have like a whole workshop I'm actually doing on this. I haven't announced it yet, but on the 5 buyer personalities, how to identify them quickly and how to make sure that you put in the automation, because part of this can be automated.
Yeah.
That enables them to make that buying decision before the sales call.
Very good. Well, I can't wait to hear about that one. Mm-hmm. That's going to be good. So the thing that's really interesting is like I'm the kind of buyer that generally I've done a lot of research. Mm-hmm. And I know what I'm looking for, and when I see it, I buy it.
Yep.
So
I would add one more aspect to your persona.
Tell me that.
Which is you need to feel connected to the person.
Oh, absolutely.
And that takes time.
Oh my God, yeah.
So you're a multi-call, like the sales call for you, it's a multi-call process. So you're going to get on probably 2 or 3 sales calls before you're ready to actually, you probably made your decision over here, but you need to keep having the conversation to reinforce that so that you're confident in the buying decision.
And isn't it interesting that most of the people that I end up enrolling are the same?
Yep. Yep.
And I enjoy those calls,
Yeah.
and I enjoy that process, you know?
And there's a gamut. Like you might not want to work with like type 1 and 2 kind of thing,
No.
but there are some that are similar, right? Like
Yeah.
their cousins or their siblings, and you still can get down, and like work with them as well.
Yeah. That is so cool, Kat. I can't wait to hear more about that.
Yeah.
Um, so we've talked connect, converse,
Okay.
close. Anything you want to add to that before we move on to one other question?
Um, no, let's see where we go.
I'll tell you what, everybody, if you follow what Kat is saying, you're going to just do fine. Everything will be great. And if you need help with it, you need to get in touch with her, which leads me to say we need to tell them how to find you.
Sure. Well, I have a free gift if that's okay to share
Oh,
that.
absolutely. Let's go ahead and go there first.
Sure. So, I mean, I always love to stack the wins if you can't tell. Meaning, I love people to be able to achieve results even before ever even considering working with me because it just shows them what's possible. So, I actually put together a pretty, my opinion, very amazing, and many other people's opinion, freebie for you guys. It's a 3-part training. You get immediate access to all of it, and it specifically works you through all one area in those 3 areas.
Yeah.
So, basically, it looks at how to break out your 1 hour of lead gen a day, what it is that you're supposed to focus on and how to go and implement it. And it's not necessarily a block. You can chop it up during the day and, the activities to focus on. The second thing is I'm actually giving you social media swipe, meaning you can copy and paste it and modify it. Let's be sure that we stay that, like, let's put your voice in there. It's a template that you can use to help the people that you're currently connected to raise their hand for that sales call.
Yeah.
Right. You already got people that are needing just that special question. And then the third thing is actually I give you my close script. So it's the exact script that I use and the process that I use to work people through when I'm on a sales call with someone.
Wow, that's awesome. That's extraordinarily
Oh,
generous.
I should tell them where to find it. That's it.
Yes,
that's what you can get,
but you can find it.
So you can find that at fullybooked.ceo.
Fullybooked.ceo is the place to download
the Lead Boss
great
Jumpstart.
Package.
Yeah.
It's going to be awesome. The one thing that I wanted to talk about before we're finished up today is on the personal side of things, and that is that as the parent of 3 young children and as a very active person who's starting to become even more active through the Tough Mudder and things like that, talk to us a little bit about how you organize your life so all of this stuff can happen.
Well, I don't do it all.
Yeah.
I outsource part of mothering. I pull in the resources I need when I need to, and I make sure that I give myself the mental breaks that I need in order to show up in the most important role, which is kind of just mother in my business, mother to my kids, mother to myself, right?
Yeah.
Of like being able to make sure I can support my clients, make sure that, I can play with my kids. And so I really have to focus. I have a concept, actually I have an app coming out with this, which is
cool.
the minimum viable day.
I love it.
We've all had it happen multiple times. Maybe it's even an entire week. Things have gone to shit. Right? Like you had a plan, you were going to execute, and, a 2-hour doctor's appointment popped up for a kid, or this followed up, or, my daughter right now has really bad congestion. And so we were up a lot of the night. Right.
Yeah.
And so somehow in the day, mama's going to need a nap. But really looking at what is the minimum stuff, not to just maintain in your business, but what's that strategic stuff that you can continue to increase with your business. And it really has to do with 5 different areas. And really kind of leveraging that and knowing that at a minimum, and those things don't take more than an hour.
Yeah.
At a minimum, these are the 5 things that I need to do, and I will continue to grow in my business. I know you're going to ask me what the 5 things are.
I don't need to know, but that'll probably be in the app, right?
It will be in the app. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
So
well, as well as like
hanging for
additional
the
resources and like how to think about things. Because a lot of times it's not that people don't know what to do. We all know what we're supposed to do. It's sometimes we need some inspiration and an idea or a reminder.
Yeah.
And that's where really the app comes into play, because it provides additional resources, trainings, things like that you can connect to, and really help continue to create not just movement in your business, but momentum.
Minimum viable day. I love it. I can't wait to see that too. So do you have a time frame for when that's going to be available?
I'm hoping by beginning of fall. of this year. So.
Wow, that's coming right up.
Yeah.
Excellent. The only other thing that I'm curious about is what would be a really good next step for people to engage with you?
Well, definitely download the stuff to see if I am someone that you want to engage with, right? Is the value there for you? I mean, I'm active on social media. So if you're hanging out on LinkedIn, like, let's connect. Like, tell me that you heard me from here. Give me a context. Most times I tell you, don't put a message in the message when you're reaching out to someone. But if you have context, you absolutely should provide that in the message. So if you heard me here, like, let me know. I heard you on Franklin's podcast and, wanted to connect here on LinkedIn because you said to do that, or on Facebook, or come find my Facebook group, which is just Lead Boss.
Yeah, it's a great group, by the way. It's one of my favorites. I look forward to it every day.
Oh, you're so amazing. Thank you.
It's so much fun. Well, that's the thing. It's like some groups, you just go in and it's like one person that's talking to everybody and nobody's listening or engaging.
Yeah.
And in this group, there's a lot of back and forth, a lot of really good engaging. You put your money where the mouth is, where the connecting comes into play. And the group is a really good place to see that happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and there's all kinds of different ways to use groups, right? And there's all kinds of ways to create a business that supports your lifestyle. So, again, don't be driven by the vanity metrics of having the most engaged group in the world. It's all about what are you doing? What are you doing with I could have let it slide, but I had to call it out. What are you doing with the information that you're gathering, and how are you leveraging it to, again, create the conversation?
Well, I think everybody now can understand why I'm such a fanboy.
Thank you.
Yeah, Kat, this has been so much fun and just so full of good value and fun insights. And it's been great energy always, but I can't thank you enough for being my guest.
Thank you so much for having me. And anything I can do to support you, I'm there.
People who work alone aren't antisocial, at least not most of us. If people think you're weird because you don't want to grow a big company and you'd rather spend most of your time working by yourself, you're just hanging around the wrong people. Your Own Best Company has a Facebook group that you're invited to join right now. We understand the urge to close the door, let your imagination run wild, and stay there until your creative impulse runs its course. We also understand the features and challenges that go along with running a business to support our solo flight lifestyles. Joining the group is free, and it's as easy as clicking the link in the channel description. So go there now and just join the group. Want to hear more where this came from? Subscribe to Your Own Best Company on your favorite podcast app or on the Franklin Taggart Coaching and Consulting YouTube channel. To get in touch with Franklin, send an email to yobc@franklintaggart.com. Thanks for listening.